All right, want to welcome everybody to PechaKucha Night, Knoxville, Volume 49. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Anybody's first time? A few people. All right, I'm going to tell you about the format. So this event was started in Tokyo, Japan. It's now in over 1,500 cities around the world. And it was started by architects Klein Dytham, and they basically realized that this is a great presentation format for people to be able to keep stories short, but good storytelling. So what you're going to see is each presenter gets 20 images, and it's on a timer. They get 20 seconds per image to tell their story, to talk about what they're doing. And so that's what you're going to see tonight. And they've been doing this for 20 years. So they started in 2003. We started here in Knoxville in 2011. And we are about to experience our 50th on March the 7th. So put that on your calendar, because we're going to have our 50th. And at the very end of the 50th event, we are going to clear these chairs as fast as we can. And we're going to have 3 DJs and do a silent disco that will be free to the public to celebrate 50 PechaKuchas in Knoxville, Tennessee. If you've not been to a silent disco, it's a unique experience. I think that you'll love it. So we have some thank yous tonight. As we always do. First, we want to thank our presenters. You'll see 8 presenters tonight. So we're going to have 4 presenters and then an intermission, and then we'll have 4 presenters. That intermission will give you an opportunity to talk to each other, to grab another beverage. And tonight, the beverages are unique. So there's always beverages in the back, but the green room is also open next door where Taco Taco was. In the green room, you can get food, you can get a mixed drink, you can get some other beverages. It'll be open till 10 o'clock tonight. So we should end just after 9. If you want to go over there and have food afterwards, it'd be a great opportunity. We also want to thank the Mill and Mine, this space that we're in right here. They are generous to us as a town hall. They donate the space to us. We pay a cleaning fee. And so thank you so much to the Mill and Mine and all the shareholders in it. And then this awesome poster by Kira Evans Design. So Kira Evans works with textiles, and that's what those are. And she captured those in an image and then put them graphically. So Kira, thank you so much for creating our poster for Volume 49. We also have a group of curators to thank. So we're all volunteers. We all do different things for a living, but we've been curating this event over the years, and these are our current 9 curators. And so thank you very much to all our curators who helped make this event possible. All right, so this will be the order tonight. So you'll have 4 presenters, an intermission, and then 4 presenters, and 2 of the presentations have multiple presenters within them, so it might be confusing, but it's going to be fantastic. There also is a countdown. I don't know if you've remembered this. So we have instituted a countdown. So when the presenter comes up, they'll see their name. They'll stand on stage here. They'll give a signal to the wonderful team back there behind the curtain. And then we'll count down aloud, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they are on. The last thing I would ask is that if you have a cell phone, please silence your phone. If you want to have a conversation, there's an incredible courtyard over there. There's also the green room. Thank you for coming tonight, Volume 49.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jacob Davis with the Knox Pride Network, and we're here to tell you a little bit about the network. In the winter of 2022, Knox Pride was presented with a grant from the United Way to create, from the ground up, a state-of-the-art media network, a space where the Knox Pride staff, as well as other community members, could create, produce, and edit audio and video content. A hub of information and entertainment presented by and intended for Knoxville's queer community and allies. By the end of 2022, Knox Pride Network was born, and we hit the ground running with production of 2 original podcast series.
And that is where the rest of us come into play. Unfortunately, we're not all going to be able to speak because there's 6 of us and we all have a lot to say. So for you guys, we pared it down to just 3 of us speaking. The rest of us are just here for moral support and beauty. I'm James Allen. I'm the co-host of the official Knox Pride podcast alongside my best friend Matt back here. We knew that initially we wanted to create a podcast all about Knox Pride and the services, programmings, and the things that it has to offer, and also all the incredible people dedicating their time and energy towards its continued success. Matt and I were put into place as co-hosts, and JD signed on as technical director and editor. We dove headfirst into the project. I guess you probably should have a little bit of our background in podcasting before we get too deep into it. JD had the most experience out of our trio. He was creator, co-host, and editor on a long-running podcast. So we weren't really that worried about him, but my extent of the experience in podcasting was getting 2 episodes into a Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen podcast with a good friend of mine who is here tonight supporting. And really this was Matt's very first swing at anything in the creative communications realm. We basically we're starting at 0, but what we lacked in knowledge, we made up for in blind confidence, so we proceeded. The 2 of us were basically, Knox Pride Podcast made its debut in January on the 19th of this year. The contents of that inaugural episode were just a little get to know you about the 3 of us and sort of some goals and hopes that we had for the podcast in the future. Looking back on that first session in the studio, it was very evident at the very beginning that even though we had little idea what we were doing, we knew that whatever it was, we could do it together. Now we flash forward to today. The Knox Pride podcast team has produced 20 full episodes. We've interviewed 16 community members, and we've even been guests on our sibling podcast that you'll hear about in just a second. To say that things always go smoothly or that the goals and ideas we discussed in that very first episode are still relevant would be an untruth. Things change. Sometimes it's not what we want to happen, but it's what needs to happen. We just keep pushing forward together. Above all, we're incredibly excited to see where the future of the Knox Pride podcast and the Knox Pride Network is going to take all of us.
Welcome to the Curious Table. I'm Dustin with my co-hosts Chrissy and Lauren. I want you to think about the best dinner you've ever had. I want you to think about what you had, what the smells were, who the people were there, and the conversation you had. That's what the Curious Table is. It's a round table discussion about things that we're curious about, or about things that people want to know about but are afraid to ask about. We ask the questions that people are too shy to ask. We invite a select group of people who share a common interest or a common topic to our dinner table. We feel that there is something magical that happens when you sit around a table, you break bread, walls come down, barriers break, and natural conversation just happens. Do you remember that best dinner you ever had? Can you remember the conversation that you had? We at the Curious Table always want everyone to feel like they have a seat at our table, like they're in on that conversation, like they are present with what we're talking about. We've been very blessed with our guests, from now running Gloria Johnson to City Councilman Amelia Parker to local and national activists. Our first series we did was on the anti-trans healthcare bill. And we dove deep into that, and we invited these people to come and sit at our table so we could ask those questions about why and how are these bills being made, and how, as an organization, can we be allies and support people in our queer community and our trans community. We just sat down with some local members of the trans community to celebrate Trans Awareness Month. And we ask them those questions that they don't get asked about how we can help support a community. And we want to share that information with everyone. So we always invite everyone to come to our table ready to eat, not only food, but knowledge. And it's something that we can't do without community partners, like some of these great restaurants who provide a meal for us every week. And so we're very thankful for that. And you can hear and listen to any of our podcasts now and the upcoming ones, which are in the work on any network that you listen to podcasts. So we invite you to join us and listen to it, and always know that there is a seat for you at our table.
Because we see you, we hear you, and we love you.
Hello. Let's bring this way down. All right. So if you guys have ever had anything that you had to do a project for in high school and then it became your entire life, for me that's The Legend of Zelda and this. So let's go. The 1968 Mexico City Olympics were the site of a few culturally significant events. The first games ever broadcast in color, East and West Germany competed separately for the first time, and 2 African American athletes raised their fist in solidarity with the Black Power movement. So naturally, I'm going to talk about the metro system. At 29 years old, Lance Wyman, a graphic designer from New York, bought a one-way ticket to Mexico to compete for the opportunity to brand the '68 Olympics. However, neither he nor his partner had ever visited Mexico. So, like good tourists, they frequented museums and studied artifacts. They were inspired by the similarities between the art of pre-Columbian Mexico and the op art that was modern at the time. They created a dynamic riff on the Olympic rings that won them the competition. As you can imagine, the Olympics are a huge undertaking for any nation, let alone one that was developing at the time like Mexico was. Forget about the infrastructure. The design deliverables alone included stamps, pictograms, posters, patterns, icons, programs, tickets, signage, wallpaper, all kinds of stuff. Eventually, a fully functioning metro system. So like much of the world in the 60s, Mexico was experiencing an unprecedented economic boom. Because of the sudden growth in the population and in the middle class, they faced severely congested main roads. During peak hours, the average speed of a car was less than walking pace for a person. Needless to say, they were in desperate need of public transport. Just in time for the Olympics, the Mexican government planned to launch a citywide metro. This conveniently fell under Lance Wyman's jurisdiction as the government's lead designer at the time. He had to design a system of maps and icons that could not only guide the people attending the Olympics, but stand alone for locals after the tourists and the Olympics were long gone. The task was made more difficult by the thousands of foreigners who would be in attendance that did not speak Spanish. To top that off, at the time, 1/3 of the Mexican population was illiterate, so it was decided that tourists and locals would find it easier to guide themselves with a system based on colors and visual signs. So this might seem like it was obvious, but it was groundbreaking at the time, I promise. So he color-coded each line of the metro and created a unique icon for every stop. This allowed visitors to navigate without the help of written characters or reading at all. For example, the icon for the stop at Coyoacan depicts a coyote because in Nahuatl, it translates to place of coyotes. I keep forgetting to breathe. So Juarez was named after President Benito Juarez and depicts his silhouette, so on, so on. The icon's background colors also, they're the same as the line the station serves. Stations serving 2 or more lines show the respective color of each line in diagonal stripes. This was a nod to the hypnotic lines of the 1968 Olympic logo, the original design. So some young Mexicans actually took an issue with a foreigner being so heavily involved with their city. It came during a time of serious civil unrest among Mexico's young people. They believed that the long-standing Revolutionary Party catered only to wealthy Mexicans and left rural Mexico behind. Those involved in the movement felt the government was covering up their hypocrisy by promoting the Olympics and beautifying the city while simultaneously orchestrating armed attacks on protesters, and large bits of public funding were used on the Olympics when there were definitely other priorities for the city. So students began co-opting Wyman's designs as acts of protest. Illustrated posters of runners became police chasing civilians with batons. The Olympic rings turned into military helmets. As a PR Hail Mary, the Mexican government branded the Olympics the quote-unquote Games of Peace. So shopkeepers painted white doves, also designed by Lance Wyman, in their windows in solidarity, but the students in return sprayed quick marks of red paint over them to mimic gunshot wounds. Eventually, this all culminated in a massacre in which Mexican officials violently dispersed a peaceful protest of students just a couple days before the Olympics were supposed to begin. They killed an estimated few hundred young people. Unfortunately, major social change was not immediate and came mostly in the form of new and widespread distrust in the government. There's no doubt the wildfire spread by the student movement would not have been possible without easily altered and recognized iconography from Lance and the talented Mexican designers that worked with him. Wyman would later express his support for the student movement and his frustration with his position in the government. Wyman eventually left and brought his system back home to the US. He implemented his simplistic style of iconography into major projects, such as Obama's 2008 presidential campaign and the DC Metro. Today, almost 1 million people ride the DC Metro every day, and over 4 million people ride the Metro in Mexico City every day. They're both recognized as the easiest rail systems in the world to navigate, in major part because of their iconography. So I hope that next time you ride a Metro, read a road sign, use an emoji, or visit a museum, or play a video game like The Legend of Zelda, you would consider the designers that make our world navigable and the role of art in promoting social and cultural change.
Like Greer, this is a school project that has consumed me for a very long time.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. My name is Christina Scott Sayer, and tonight I would like to tell you a little bit about my philosophy of theatrical dramaturgy. What is dramaturgy? At its core, it's the research and scholarship that goes into a play. Sometimes the script, and sometimes the production. But tonight, I'm going to focus less on what dramaturgy is, and more on the philosophy. Imagine a marble rotunda with a compass legend inlaid into the floor. Around the circumference of this vast cylinder are half a dozen doors. Each door has a brass plaque engraved with bold text. Behind each door lies another rotunda with another 5 doors, each of those with a brass plaque as well. This hexagonal fractal might expand eternally an architectural cock snowflake. The only limitation on the structure is time. Otherwise, each room could inform another into eternity. This fantastical building is an architectural metaphor for dramaturgy in practice and grasps at the infinite possibilities which the field encompasses. The imagined architecture, though grand, seems insignificant compared to the cabinet of wonders that it holds. This museum of research and creative organization contains the carefully chosen holdings of the collector, the dramaturg. Dramaturgs do not exist simply to save a trip to the library. The information that they compile serves as more than a specialized encyclopedia to explain historical references, gloss unfamiliar words, and outline aspects of a specific concept. Rather, dramaturgs create organized but diverse collections that provide a means of contemplation for their audience. A dramaturgy research packet or dramaturgical installation should be akin to entering or opening a Wunderkammer, or Cabinet of Wonders. The work should engender a dual impulse: to be awed by the amount and variety of the content, and to be drawn in to discover more or add. The Wunderkammer tradition began in Europe during the Renaissance. Noblemen collected objects of natural and artificial interest and displayed them in rooms in their homes. These objects could include taxidermy, art, cultural oddities from around the world. Wunderkammern were the precursors of natural history museums. The Ashmolean in Oxford, England, is a notable example of the direct transference of the former to the latter. And an American example can be found in the roots of the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. However, early private collections were less about creating a museum of the singular and more about exploring the vastness and variety of the world. Dramaturgy, as a discipline, draws from the mindset of these collectors of curiosities in creating their theatrical museums. The dramaturg, as a collector, seeks to create a museum of the mind, by which the actor, director, designer, playwright, and audience can be further inspired, including ideas and objects that can be applied directly to the work of building a play. Above all, a Wunderkammern was the world in microcosm, what Francis Bacon described as a small compass, a model of the universe made private. And what is the experience of creating or attending a play but entering into the discrete universe of wonder and imagination, and choosing to live for the duration in another place and time? We enter the Museum of Curiosities at its hub, the play itself. This is Shakespeare's Cymbeline. Off this hub, the doors may be labeled a myriad things, and behind these doors, they continue into rooms filled with weapons, death masks, cloaks, and maps, scholarly articles on Shakespeare and his playhouses, myths and legends of Rome and the Celts, anything and everything that may fit into the ever more specific confines of its labeled door. But how does the visitor affect the layout of this museum? Playwright, director, actor, designer, audience, they have different goals. And when they use a dramaturgical Wunderkammer, the dramaturg must organize the information to suit. The company may begin together in the foyer at the kernel of the idea, but then they have the freedom to experience the exhibits as best suits. However, a playwright's relationship to the Wunderkammer is quite different than anyone else's. She is the play's Ashmole or Smithson. She has made this collection of ideas, and it is the job of the dramaturg to get the museum ready for public consumption. The playwright in this case does the collecting, and the dramaturg is tasked with the taxonomy. Within the Wunderkammer of a play, a dramaturg can serve as docent for the actor, acquisition specialist for the director, opening day coordinator for the playwright, and conservator and archivist for the scholar. The individuals explore the Cabinet of Curiosities from their own perspectives and with different goals. The dramaturg endeavors to both enlighten and inspire by providing the research, background information necessary to finish a script or to stage a production, answering its demands with accuracy, while also providing the information and media intended to inspire the audience to explore the museum as far as the fractal may take them. The thinking behind creative collection, ingenious taxonomy, and careful presentation mark the difference between a dramaturg and a scholar. The two disciplines share many traits, but their goals differ. The scholar endeavors to enlighten, the dramaturg endeavors to inspire. Within the Wonder Cabinet of the play, There's no single prescribed path of analysis, but an excess of intuitive possibilities. And the dramaturg seeks, within this wunderkammer of a script, rehearsal process, or production, to lead the individual audience to the exhibits that serve their creative needs. The dramaturg must aspire to the same ideals as those who created the original Wunderkammern, creating something that will illume, explain, inspire, and intrigue, creating the universe of the play in microcosm, and opening the cabinet of dramaturgical wonders to all who wish to enter. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me in exploration of my dramaturgical philosophy. I appreciate your time and attention, and I hope perhaps I've introduced you to a discipline you knew very little about and maybe would like to know more. Thank you.
All right, only 6 minutes and 40 seconds sit between you and the next beer, so let's do it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Whitmore, and with me are my colleagues Adam Buchanan and Bud Archer. The three of us are architects at a local firm, MHM Architects, and roughly 2 years ago, we were awarded a research grant from our firm. Tonight, the three of us will present to you the outcome of that research. The current fundamental design problem facing our profession today is how will the built environment respond and adapt to minimize the growing threats of climate change. For our research, we focus specifically on how to create a reactive response in our built environment that addresses the long-lasting effects of climate change that threaten us today. Our research is also intended to address those issues facing the East Tennessee region. Many other parts of the U.S. currently face critical threats of sea levels rising, harsher weather patterns, and destructive storms. Because our region sits well above the sea level, experiences moderate winters and occasional dry spells, it's difficult to pinpoint what hazards face our region. We started assessing this using the framework presented in the U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit. Using the framework, we identified the major hazards that face our assets in our region and established the consequences that may occur without response. What we found is that in 2016, Chattanooga was identified as the 6th fastest warming city in the U.S. In large, what contributes most to the rise in temperature is Chattanooga's geographical formation, which is essentially a bowl that is restricting air movement and creating, for lack of a better term, a hot box of pollutants and warm air. We recognize that this threatens several communities in Chattanooga that rely heavily on public transportation and are walking to navigate the city, and puts their mobility at risk. These communities have little to no access to public parks and also reside in the hottest parts of the city due to the heat islands that surround them. So knowing this, knowing the critical threat and the asset, the next step was to respond. Where we started was establishing key values that ended up aligning with sustainable goals already established in Chattanooga's Integrated Community Sustainability Plan. Those values would then inform the functional goals for our response.
So with our functional goals in mind, we started looking at active and passive precedents. Some were sculptural and linked to unique cultural geographic conditions. Others were functional, intended to guide pedestrian movement and provide site-specific needs. Our team began with a day-long charrette to get our initial ideas on paper. We were thinking about things like scale, functionality, modularity, component relationships, and programmatic assumptions. You can see some of those documented here. After our day-long charrette, our team visited the site, and we were able to gather some spatial information related to specific areas in Chattanooga. Walking through parts of the city, we were able to verify or cancel out the assumptions we were making as we worked through our initial ideas in the charrette exercise. Next, we moved on to formal iterations. So with the site information and initial ideas in hand, we began these explorations to test our ideas. We found that each intervention could function individually as an oasis, but also collectively to form a wayfinding network for pedestrians moving through the changing urban landscape. This yielded more refined, formal explorations infused with biophilic design principles. As a subset of the formal explorations, we began to include a technological component. Each piece of the oasis is able to perform specific tasks, providing a source of non-potable water, charging for small devices, misting for localized cooling, light and shade for pedestrians seeking shelter. They work together to create a microclimate that supports walkability. We work through some of the details to be sure the biophilic grass blade form is able to provide a space for various technological components. The objects are tied together by a multifunctional tensile fabric which provides shelter, collects water, and provides a substrate for a micro-solar array. The oasis interventions could be deployed anywhere in the world, but the arrangements are very site-specific. Each oasis is different and would have varying levels of occupancy and use intensity. Each functional component is used at one of 3 scales, yielding a total of 12 objects and an infinite number of combinations.
We determined that arranging these 12 total components into formal clusters required some form of logic, so we used the idea of a basic mathematical formula to help give intention and unique design opportunities at each site. Once a cluster was determined, the multi-use tensile fabric would be wrapped around the components to create a final spatial form of the oasis. We then wanted to test the idea of the formula concept in different areas of the city to see if it could help us rapidly generate design ideas while still meeting the functional needs of each site. We created 3 hypothetical character groups set in the near future and the daily stories that they would follow. We used various mapping data and street views to see where and how they could interact with these structures. The first hypothetical focused on downtown, arguably the most dense and walkable part of any city. We focused on a young tourist couple visiting Chattanooga. In this scheme, we considered how the structures could provide spaces of respite from the heat and identifiable waypoints throughout the city, such as a bike station, a cafe, a beer garden, or farmer's market entry gateway. We then looked at a more commercial and residential suburban hybrid condition, focused on walkability and civic destinations such as the Chattanooga Zoo. We began thinking about a combination of public and private adoption so that not only could these be used in civic spaces, but they could also be implemented in small and large-scale private spaces, such as a drive-in theater. It doesn't even have to be solely for humans. Animals need respite from the heat as well. Finally, we considered someone who does not have access to a car and uses public transportation in their daily life. With the right combination of components, these structures could be used as bus shelters, water collection at community gardens, or even just a park pavilion. These moments of rest among a day of grocery shopping or other everyday errands can provide much needed cooling and shelter from the ever-increasing heat we are facing. Individually, these structures address unique needs and conditions of a site by providing shade, cooling, light, and electricity. Together, they form a functional network that encourages walking, provides wayfinding, and creates a unique pedestrian-focused system of amenities. Thank you.
We're going to take a 15-minute intermission, and then we'll be right back. Thank you. We have 4 more presenters, so let's welcome Travis to the stage. Thank you.
What's up? Hey, my name is Travis Harris. Born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm a transplant, homegrown transplant, lived here and slowly migrated myself back to Knoxville, so it's good to be back. The building that is known as Kern's Bakery has served as an eyesore for many years, but that is all about to change. The 70,000 square foot entertainment venue and food hall is scheduled for its grand arrival. Peter Kern was born in Germany in 1836. He trained as a shoemaker and moved to America in 1852. By late 1960, Kern had made his way to Knoxville, started his own business, bought his business partner out, and then moved his business into a 2-story building on Market Square. The first floor houses Kern's retail store. The second floor was the ice cream parlor, and the third housed a meeting hall. Kern claimed to be the biggest candy factory in the South and was one of the Knoxville's first businesses to serve a variety of soda pops. After Kern's death in 1907, a portion of his business that included the candy and ice cream factory were discontinued. The Kern family remained owners of the business until 1925. Then in 1928, the Greer and Brown families became owners of the business, and the company became known as the Brown and Greer Company. Towards the end of 1930, Brown and Greer Company purchased a large tract of land on the south side of the river close to Henley Street Bridge. The building at 2110 Chapman Highway opened in 1931 as a new home for the Kern's Bakery. The Brown family ended up with sole control of the ownership and the business until the sale to Sara Lee in 1989. In the early years, Kern's Bakery primarily produced bread and pastries. Catering to the growing population in Knoxville, the bakery quickly gained its reputation for its high-quality produce, products, and became a favorite amongst locals. I love this picture because I remember being a big fat kid, asking my mom to drive by Kern's Bakery so I could smell the bread. And then it became Sara Lee. I love this picture because of the old trucks that used to run up and down the highway. I used to remember seeing those trucks, and then shout out the Baptist Hospital in the background. Kern's Bakery was added to the National Register of Historical Places in 2017. The building has a long history of prominence in South Knoxville. Together with its historic architecture and its unique neon sign that crowns its roof make for a significant and recognizable feature in the Knoxville industrial industry. In 2018, the transformation began. The thoughts and plans and organizations of the food hall were born. The reconstruction of Kern's Bakery Food Hall was in full swing. So just a quick update on the building. I know everyone's eager. The space itself, 70,000 feet, give or take. The goal was to create authenticity while maintaining the historical content. Just some quick facts. 17 food vendors from all over the world, but with a local twist. 18 out of 17 of the food vendors are minority-owned businesses. There's a bakery, there's a brewery, and there's also a gym. So, yeah. The structure itself, one writer put, preserve the history of the building and honor the community members that curated the business and poured their lives into the actual part of this project. Restored ceilings, original floors, beautiful polished, refinished, exposed brick, natural sunlight, and rustic and clean views. Peter Kern was a major role in the community, and also we were adamant in his legacy to live in the DNA of the food hall that bears his name. As a community partner to this project, we wanted to honor Mr. Kern by creating a space for all persons, regardless of life experiences and backgrounds. The community partners in Kern's Bakery will design and operate an incubator business model concept that will support, train, and provide first-in-class services to its members. Opportunity for creating such a robust business model can be very expensive and cumbersome for anyone, especially the majority of underrepresented members in our community. Monday Night Brewery will be an integral operator throughout the food hall, managing 5 separate venues, a 3,000-foot tap room with access to a patio, 7,000 square foot lawn, 2 rooftop patio bars, and a small bar near the entry performance stage. Over the 30 years of experience in the food hall industry, Tim and Alex, the 2 titans on this project, did an outstanding job carefully choosing the vendors, strategically aligning different food concepts within the space of the food hall, organically putting people in shared spaces where they are comfortable around different people who are also sharing that same level of comfort. That's the notion of community. Social gatherings and entertainment and significant concepts of Kern's Bakery is important. An outdoor stage, communal tables, intimate seating pods, rooftop patios, event lawn, and performing stages, and the Jumbotron for the Vols. That's right. Other amenities include high-speed internet and patio seating and indoor-outdoor bars with access to the Greenway Trail that will come up to the back of the bakery that is in partnership with Knoxville Urban Wilderness. The concerts and event space will be used year-round, including for holidays, 4th of July fireworks shows, and even high school football games and weekend yoga with goats. So this is our platform. The revitalized Kern's Bakery site will be Knoxville's most comfortable gathering place. The Kern's Bakery Food Hall will serve as a connection point where people sip, eat, shop, and engage with friends, visitors, and guests, and neighbors. Thank you.
I'm going to try this. If this goes horribly wrong, I blame not using my notes. All right, I think we're ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, my name is Katie McClary, and I'm the president and CEO at the Great Smoky Mountains Institute at Tremont. Briefly about me, I grew up in rural Nashville. I grew up at a time where it looked a little different. We had cows in our backyard, and I remember playing in those fields with my sisters, and I remember my grandmother counting those cows to keep her brain sharp. This is a picture of my granny and my twin sister and me, and if you notice, my shirt is a map of the world. And I remember that shirt so vividly because one year I stuffed it full, and I went as a globe for Halloween. And I went around singing, "We are the world, we are the children," as we were trick-or-treating. It's pretty safe to say I was an eco-conscious kid. It was about that same age when I first came to Tremont with my school. We slept in the dorms, we ate in the dining hall, and we explored the outdoors together. And I learned that a connection to nature was personal, and it was local. It was about more than just saving the polar bears in the Arctic, but it was about taking small actions with collective impact. In 2018, I returned to Tremont, but this time as a CEO. And my job was to build and expand Tremont's work from within Great Smoky Mountains National Park and beyond. So in 2019, we purchased 200 acres outside the national park on which we will build our second campus. Early on, we knew that we wanted the buildings to serve our educational mission of connecting people to nature. But we didn't want to just connect people to nature. We wanted to connect people, to each other, and we wanted to connect buildings to nature as well. So when I first learned about the Living Building Challenge, I was so excited and so curious about their ambitious goals to create buildings that through every aspect of design and construction and operation seek to benefit the environment in which they are built. For me, it was a paradigm shift, and I knew instantly my vision for Tremont's future was crystallized. We would pursue the Living Building Challenge. The Living Building Challenge is kind of like LEED buildings. LEED buildings are energy efficient, they do less bad, but living buildings actually seek to be positive. They seek to be regenerative. Through every aspect, they say, what if every single aspect of design made the world better? They use the metaphor of a flower. And so it's got 7 petals, performance standards that you can achieve. Those petals are place, water, energy, materials, health and happiness, equity, and beauty. And all together, they call us to imagine a forest, or imagine this building as connected as a forest ecosystem. So let's sit with that for a moment. What does a forest look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? At Tremont, we're very fortunate to exist within a dynamic forest, one that went through massive logging, but it's now in recovery. We sit in the Little River watershed, and we are called to honor the health of this water. The water petal calls us to redefine what wastewater is, to replicate the natural cycles of water, to minimize consumption, and through every act to call us to understand the literal ripple effects that our behaviors have on life downstream. Life in waters where you might find structures like this. You may not know it, but every single rock in this pile was carried here by the mouth of a fish to protect and house its eggs. When you know this, it provides new meaning, new purpose. It's beauty and it's architecture. That's the essence of the beauty petal. In the book, The Little Prince, it says, "A rock pile ceases to be a rock pile. A moment, a single man considers it, bearing within him the image of a cathedral." We, like fish, pile rocks for purpose. We build beauty. And it's not just what we build, but what we choose to build it with. The materials petal calls us to use locally sourced and responsible materials, to take inspiration from adobe and earthen materials that indigenous cultures built entire civilizations on. How can we utilize natural resources? How can we be persuaded to forgo the chemically laden plastics and vinyls that pollute our airs and our waters? And how can those of us who can take the trees that are cut down on site and use them in construction of the buildings, just like our predecessors did in the place we call Great Smoky Mountains National Park? When all this comes together, it changes our relationship with the land. And the place petal calls us to seek reciprocity and kinship, to restore a healthy connection between place and people and nature. It calls us to consider when we build our homes and our cities that we build them like a forest, where they provide food and respond to the changing of seasons. And how we respond, how we choose to heat and light our homes can mimic the photosynthesis of the forest. The energy petal calls us to use solar energy and to transfer energy efficiently across the entire grid that mimics that of the web below the forest floor. Fungal networks below the forest floor actually help forests participate in resource sharing. Fungal networks carry carbon and water and minerals. Across different species, trees can communicate with each other. They can tell each other when they're being attacked by pests. They can protect and heal each other, ensuring equitable outcomes for the forest. We too can pursue equity. We can use universal design to make sure that everyone, despite their physical ability, has access to the same experience, and that we can seek and pursue environmental justice and fair wages and job opportunities for a workforce as diverse as the Smokies. And the benefits of nature won't just happen on our trails, but they'll happen indoors. Access to clean air and sunlight, biophilic design, all work in harmony to enrich creativity, to promote health and well-being, and to decrease stress. When we build this way, we are building a model of a better future and a healthier future. At Tremont, we do this with joy and we do this with hope, understanding that hope calls us to take responsibility for our future. So thank you so much for listening tonight to the future that we are working towards at Tremont.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Merkel. Let's get started.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Who here has tried to lose weight before? Yes, me too. When people see me now, they don't know that I struggled with my weight for years. They don't know that at one point I was embarrassed to leave the house because of all the weight I had gained. They don't know that people asked if I was pregnant when I wasn't. No, don't ever ask unless you know. I was in 8th grade when I tried my first diet. It was the cabbage soup diet, and that was the first of many. Things like Slim Fast, Weight Watchers, Atkins, then low fat. I tried so many. But I was determined, and I spent decades and spent so much money on education and certifications and working with coaches and trainers and gym memberships, all of the things. But today I have success, and I am on a mission to help other women who are struggling with their weight find success too. And it's not just about the number on the scale, it's about feeling amazing in your body. Tonight, I'd like to share with you the 4 biggest mistakes I made when losing weight and that I see so often with others. Mistake number 1, restrictive diets and cutting calories. I used to think food was the enemy, and I was always calculating calories in my head. The lower the number, the better. What I learned is that our bodies need a certain amount of calories just to function, just for our heart to beat, for our blood to flow. When it comes to losing weight, it's all about eating the right foods to balance your hormones. Because when you balance your hormones, you can release fat all day long. Mistake number 2, self-sabotage. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar. You start out strong on a new healthy eating or exercise routine, and then life gets busy or stressful. And the next thing you know, you're head first into a tub of ice cream or into the donuts. Now, not only are you still stressed, but you're feeling guilty for blowing your diet again. Anyone relate? The truth is, so many of us eat to buffer our emotions. We eat when we're stressed, when we're sad, when we're happy. What I learned is that it's imperative to master your mindset and your emotions and learn to only eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. Mistake number 3, I wasted so much time in the gym. So much time. I used to do 2-a-day workouts, and I had multiple gym memberships. I worked with various trainers. I got certified as a personal trainer myself. What I learned is that while exercise is great for our health, both physically and mentally, when it comes to weight loss, it doesn't move the dial that much. You can never out-exercise a bad diet. And mistake number 4, and this might have been the biggest mistake of all. I thought when I lost weight and achieved the perfect body, that I would be happy and life would be great. That's what the media tells us after all. That didn't happen. I competed in 2 fitness competitions, and the night of my second show was one of the saddest nights of my life. I was in my hotel room looking in the mirror, and I knew in that moment that was the best I was ever gonna look. I was thin, for crying out loud. I had just been on stage in this tiny bikini. I had the fake tan, the fake lashes, the fake nails, hair, the whole thing. I knew I wasn't getting any better than that. And I was sad. I was so sad. Everything I had worked for so long didn't happen. In that moment, I realized that achieving the perfect body wasn't gonna make me happy. Relationships were. I learned that for me, the thing that brings me the most joy and the most happiness is being around positive, wonderful, loving people. And relationships are the key to happiness. Let's recap these 4 things I've learned. 1, food is not the enemy. When it comes to losing weight, it's all about eating to balance your hormones so you can release fat. Number 2, it's imperative to master your mindset and your emotions so that you only eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. Number 3, don't spend all your time in the gym. Exercise a little bit for health, but not for weight loss. And number 4, find your tribe. Find joy and happiness in the moment. When you nail these 4 things, you can have long-lasting weight loss and a lot of joy along the way. I am so passionate about helping other women find and learn these same things that I did, and I'm thrilled to be launching a new online course this January, the Body Confidence Formula for Women. I believe that all of my experiences and all of my struggles have brought me to this very moment. And my true purpose is to help other women struggling with the same things. I have absolutely found that relationships bring me the most joy in my life. And with that, I'd like to invite any of the women in the audience tonight to a Zoom chat or a coffee meetup. I'd love to meet you. This is a QR code to my calendar. Go ahead, schedule a time or grab me after the show and let's connect. And if you are someone who is struggling to lose weight and you're just not sure if it's possible for you, please know that it is. It just takes the right tools and the right strategies to make it happen. If I can do it, you absolutely can do it too. Thank you so much for letting me share my story. Enjoy our final speaker of the night. He's amazing. Thank you so much.
No pressure. Hit it, Chuck. I suspect that you and I have had the same experience. In fact, I believe that you and I have had the same boss. I think you know the type. The one that sits in their office all the time. They look at spreadsheets and numbers. Would rather hang out with their peers, even worse, their bosses, rather than get down to where we are and connect with us. Learn about us. Learn about what's happening in the company at the final touch point of the product or the customer. I spent 2 decades as a naval aviator. I had the same experience there. And early in my career, I was left wondering, why are there some leaders I would run through brick walls for? And there are others I was happy to just let run off on their own. And I went down this journey of learning about great leaders. What does it take to be a great leader? How could I be a better leader? How could I build great teams that would do great things and accomplish the mission? A few years ago, I brought that into my home life. My daughter, for some reason, kept asking to go get donuts in the morning before school, untenable every day, until I realized it wasn't about the donuts, although she loved donuts. It was about spending time with Dad. Thus, Daddy-Daughter Donut Day was born. See, great leaders understand that the core building block to leadership is communication. They don't just talk at you, they speak with you. They meet you where you are, and they connect with you on your level. There are 4 parts to this type of communication. First part, you gotta meet people where they are. Go see them. Second, you have to start a genuine conversation, really want to learn about somebody. Third is active listening. And the 4th is listening to empower. But step 1, you got to get your butt out of the seat. You got to go see where people are, where they work, what they're doing. And in this day and age of remote work, hybrid work, that could be difficult. So maybe get on a video teleconference, fire up the G Meets or the Zoom, but have the camera on so that you can see them. But you can't connect with someone until you get down to see where they are and what they're doing. You could have a lot of fun. You could dress up like a deranged fighter pilot Easter bunny. I assure you from experience, people will tell an Easter bunny anything. It's amazing. It's like Undercover Boss. The reality is you're most likely going to see wildfires. Good. That's what you need to see. Until you crest the ridgeline, and you feel the wind blowing, and you see the size of the fire, that's the only time that you're going to really understand what is happening. And you have to start assessing risk. How do you do that? You ask a question. So step 2, start a genuine conversation. How do you do that? You ask a question. It could be hard, it's difficult for me. It could be as easy as, how's your day going? Better yet, what are you working on? What are the pain points you feel while you're trying to do your work? And what are the hard parts about doing your job to make the customer happy? It's difficult to try and connect with people that you don't know very well. So find something, anything laying around, something on the walls, and if it's hybrid, find an avatar. I recently saw this picture of my employee when we were having a conversation, as an avatar on Slack, and I asked him where he was speaking at, and it turns out he was providing a pitch to investors because he had started a company several years ago. I'm about to go through the same thing. Had I not been interested in this photo and asked that question, I would never know that I had somebody in my company that I could leverage their experience to help me be better. Thus we get to step 3, active listening. It's like panning for gold. You've got to remove the silt from the flakes of that precious metal to really get to what you need to know and the information you need to keep in your brain. Panning for gold, active listening, is the way to begin connecting with others. It can be difficult at times. You're not really sure where you are with someone. Use phrases such as, "it seems like," or "it sounds like," and then repackage what they've said to you. One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to get the, "no, not really, what I mean is," that's great, because you just got the answers to the test. Can't fail now. Or they're going to say, "yes, that's right." Boom. You've made a connection. They know that you understand them. And now we get to listening to empower. This is the fun part. Because now you can empower somebody in one of 3 ways. Either you're going to give them agency to go solve the problem themselves. Give them the authority to fix the issue. Give them the ability to change their destination in the company and be a true stakeholder. Or 2, strap on a rocket pack and giddy up. Now you get to launch off and solve the problem for them. Maybe you're the only person that can. Maybe you're the only one that has the connections to fix the problem. Empower them through their voice because they've told you what they need you to do and you can get after it. Or 3rd, answer the why. We have all stood on the shoreline looking at the horizon wondering why we're doing something. Give them the why. Empower them with the knowledge of where you're trying to go, where the company's trying to go, and how they can help. And you've just bought somebody who will forever run through a brick wall for you. Unfortunately, too often we turn to these as our way of communication. We're waiting for that Slack message. We're looking to send that text message. We're not really communicating and connecting. We're talking at each other. So I'm going to challenge you leaving here tonight. Find the next opportunity to be an example of great leadership. Connect with somebody where they are. You never know. You may end up solving the most challenging question. Just how many donut holes are equivalent to a single donut? Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight. 2 things. Remember, March 7th, nifty. I like that, Mr. Jordan. That's great. March 7th will be our 50th volume. That's a long time. It's fantastic. And I heard that Dolly Parton is going to be singing Rocky Top at the UT football game this weekend. Thanks for coming out, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.